Yeah. So I'm not up on all of your lessons yet, but I'm working on it. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'll get there.
Good. I'm so happy that you're in the class. We had class today, and today it was all about the origins of solar consciousness, and basically how everything that we are and everything that we do is based upon borrowed light from the sun and the stars and the galaxy as a huge neural network, and how that is quantum entangled in all of the light in our body, and how it is basically about the change and shift in Earth's cosmic presence, like becoming more present and connected with all of the other star cultures as part of our journey, and being able to say, like, there's no more this bifurcation between your physical body and your light body, and no longer the separation of Earth from, let's say, Alpha Centauri or a distant star system or a distant galaxy, that all of these things end up being folded together much closer and more communicatively through a higher dimensional space.
Nice. So it's like the macro brain neural network almost.
Exactly what it is. You got it.
Wow.
You got it. Ascension, as we're experiencing it, in an individual sense, in a planetary and cultural sense, and everything that's going on and changing in our solar system, that radiates outward from our sun star and is connected to all of these other sun stars, is connected to the central galactic core. All of these things are changing and leveling up, and that a meta overarching consciousness, a larger superstructure. I call it an alive time animal, because it's made out of time, but it's alive just like we are, even though it might be a more abstraction. But it needs to stay alive. It needs to metabolize. It needs to have flow, like we have blood flowing through us, or oxygen flowing through us. It needs to have the flow of time to be able to stay alive and maintain itself and metabolize. So we did like a lot of deep cosmic concepts in class today.
Yeah, it's very interesting as to where we are and what they're trying to do to everyone, right? They're trying to stop everyone moving and keep them in one spot.
Absolutely. Behind the scenes, before we started the recording here, we were talking about changes in rock and roll and changes in music over the recent past, like over the past decade or so, how computers have really changed music from being more of a analog felt experience, like music changes a little bit, the beat changes a little bit as you go along, maybe in the 60s and 70s. And then by the 1980s and 1990s, with more computers and quantizing going on to the beat, kind of taking out that feeling of the soul unpredictability, and then getting into like purely digitized, auto-tuned voices and very, whatever artificially created music. And I'm not critical at all, because I love it all, and I love the older generation stuff, and I love the newer generation stuff, and I do a lot with digital presences. But we were talking also about, like I said, like sometimes you have to rage against the machine. And what did you say, Colin, about?
Yeah, it was like, rage against the machine, right? F you, we won't do what you tell us. But now they're telling everyone, well, you need to have a V or all the rest of the stuff before you can come into the concert. So now it's you.
Right. You have to
if you just do what we tell you. It's a complete flip.
Right. Just be part of the machine, not rage against the machine, but be part of the machine, like consent to the machine. Yep. And then you can come to our concert, which is definitely, so it's a good question of like, where are the voices of rebellion, or that energy used to be in the world of rock and roll, where it was like, I'm doing my own thing, don't tell me what to do. And now it's kind of like, who is there as the icon or the example of freedom and free will and a little bit of a rebellious attitude against these social constraints?
Twisted Sister did the exact same thing. We're not gonna take it. Oh, actually, no, we will take it now, and you have to as well. And Neil Young.
Yeah, and I remember.
Like Neil Young.
Yeah, good point.
Buffalo Springfield. You know that song?
Right.
There's something happening here. It's like, it's literally talking about a time like now. People should stand up. And yeah, well,
Yes.
so it's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of
And
shows that a
it
lot of the
is.
music was just, it's being delivered. It's Tavistock, right? It's not musicians. It's a
That, so you bring up a beautiful point. Yeah. So with Neil Young as one example, that song "Four Dead in Ohio," that was about the Kent State massacre, peaceful protesters on the college campus in the United States in the 1960s at Kent State, and the National Guard opened fire and shot four of them just very openly and killed several of them. And the story goes in rock and roll trivia, because I'm from Woodstock, New York, and I know my rock and roll trivia, guys, that Neil Young heard about this, took his guitar, stalked off into the woods, and decided to write this song, Four Dead in Ohio. And that, it came out as this very organic type of song. But what Colin is, sorry, I'm so sorry that I had your name on Cambell, is talking about here. I'm so sorry that I misspoke there. I do know who you are and what your name is. But sometimes my brain just is moving. Sometimes my brain is moving at a different rate than my mouth, seriously. But what Cambell was talking about.
I know what that's
You can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is with Tavistock? What is Tavistock? What are we talking about? A social experiment or a form of social conditioning using the world of rock and roll and the seeming freedom of that realm in order to do social engineering. So some of these icons from the 1960s and 70s that you think are like, we're rebelling against everything, but not necessarily. Some of them might have been more controlled in their behavior and their thought processes and their lyricism than you would think in terms of their self-expression. So I love all music, but I usually divorce it from this context that it came from, either the record company or who made it or who sang it, and all of the layers of, layers of meaning that are plastered on top of it. I usually just listen to a song and I'm like, yeah, I like or I don't like this song, like a cultural outsider, but I recognize that there's all of these different things, overlays and glamours, even like, a magical glamour or a sparkling coating on top of certain things that give it a certain meaning or make it palatable or meaningful, or it's ways of social engineering. And so the social engineers knew a lot and still do about how to sprinkle magical fairy dust onto people's radio listening and influence their minds.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always, I'm sure there's a lot of lyrics in there that they're getting into your subconscious, but they change things, right, like the dress and the behavior of people, don't they? Because they put the music icons out there to push forward, to change what's normal. And then of course what's normal, right? Then if you split off in that goes a lot of sort of dodgy ways, but in the end I believe that yes. We can take what we want from it. Even if it was written with a certain intention, we don't have to take that on board, right? We can take out of it what we want.
Yes, that is totally what I do. I'm not only a galactic walk-in, so I'm a genuine cultural outsider, but I also practice being a cultural outsider. So when I listen to music of this time and place, I'm like, okay, like this is music. This is, like beats and arrangements. And I basically put my own meaning onto it instead of saying it's this person that was in this band and this is what they were singing about and this is what they meant and this is what I'm supposed to think and feel from it. So I would encourage everyone to divorce the music from the person that emanated it so that it can just be its own free thing. Like, if I like Led Zeppelin and I like their song, but I don't have to think like, oh no, like they were doing some kind of magical occult rituals or they were doing something like, because lots of people were doing that. So in order to be able to appreciate music in general, it's important to be able to separate the song from the musician and take it in its own right and appreciate, music as an abstraction.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Just feel it, hey. Just go with the beat.
That's how I usually do it. I feel it, and music is very visceral and definitely brings up emotions and affects us on a cellular level. So I like to do that. I sometimes listen to things, but divorced from their social and cultural context. And also, I listen to a lot of independent music. Like I love SoundCloud for that reason, because you can find all of these wonderful, unique, independent artists. Same thing with Bandcamp. I encourage everyone, go on there, YouTube as well, and you can just find independent musicians that make and publish their own music, and they have not had to compromise or diminish or dilute their message in any way in order to bring it to you. And there's all of these wonderful, rich, unique experiments, and I'm very experimental too. Like, I'm like, sometimes I write a song and I'm like, oh, like, this is such a weird song. No one's gonna like it. No one's gonna listen to it. This is too weird for people's ears. But then those end up being some of the songs that people are like, that song is awesome and it rocks or goes hard. Yeah, I wrote this one song that is called "And It Made the People Dance." And I thought, like, oh, this is a weird song. No one's ever gonna like it. Yeah, and then lots of people liked it.
Same with videos. I'll make something, I'm like, oh God, I think that's a bit crap, really. Or maybe I'll put it up and see what happens. And it just goes off. And then other ones, I'm like, that's really good. Yeah, then you put it up and nothing. It's just like, not into it. So it's funny.
It's very funny like that.
Mm.
Yeah, you can't go by the expectation of what will be popular, but sometimes it's because something is weird, but it speaks to people or resonates with them in some way. So then they're like, yeah, whatever was coming through me when I made that composition, they're feeling it too, and it's relevant in the moment. So sometimes that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, definitely, exactly. So yes, so music, and of course music, half of that word is muse, right? Just as a side note.
Right.
Yeah, we are the muse. So
like a muse and inspiration. A muse is an inspirer, right? Is that what that means?
Yeah, the muse is like yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a good way to describe it. Yeah, someone who sits around and sort of gives you advice and helps, and the muse, yeah. They're quite amusing, apparently, or can be. Have all these funny,
right, entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use music in so many different ways. Like, I use it for emotional connection. And if I'm feeling sad or depressed or whatever, like, I need to listen to something that will either uplift me or give me a homeopathic dose of depression. Like, here's a tiny amount of depression, and now kind of alleviates your generalized depression or whatever negativity that you're feeling. Like, someone else felt it too, and then you feel better. Or like we were talking about, anger from some kind of rageful music, like put on the rage music and then get it out of you in some way.
Yeah, get it out, indeed. Yeah, and that's and this whole thing, a lot of genres get a bad rap, like heavy metal, a lot of people are like, oh, it's the devil's music and all this, but it, it can be used in any way you want, right? It can be used to get the devil out of you, so-called, just and it's funny because when you look back in history, they used to do that a lot with exorcisms and stuff like that, didn't they? Always used a lot of dancing and ritual kind of stuff to get out that whatever negative energy or negative spirits or whatever. So yeah.
In the most neutral sense, what I would say is music is a powerful tool that is a resonant instrument to be able to bring us into different self states. So you can use music in order to purge negativity, anger, or pain or trauma or whatever, to release things that you don't want inside of you. And then music can also be used to resonate and bring you in alignment with self states that you do want. That's the whole idea of why cathedrals were built. Like, cathedrals that are shaped like this, the interior space of them, they're resonant plate chambers. And when you go in there and everybody sings, oh, and you're like, I feel like I'm in heaven. Like, I feel like I'm resonating. It literally lifts you up into a higher dimensional state. So I do a lot with music like that too, that if I'm feeling low or crappy or whatever, I'm like, I need to put on this song. I need to put on my headphones. I need to dance. I need to use it as a transportive substance that is, a non-chemical drug is what I'm trying to say, a positive substance.
Yeah.
That brings me in positive directions and is non-addictive on my body.
And I think that's what it used to be used for.
Yes.
I don't think there were discos back in the old world. It was and like you say, it started with healing from cathedrals with their big resonators and their spires, right, going up.
Yeah.
And the bells, which of course they ripped them all out in World War II, unfortunately. The organs ripped them all out too. Like, like an amazing amount of cathedrals have the organs, but they took them all apart and threw them in the basement. Like they literally still have it all there, but they rip it apart. And that's obviously the the bad side, right? The virus people trying to stop us from accessing those healing energies and that connection. That's literally everything.
There's suppression of music. Yeah,
they're suppressing it. So, and that's what it was. Yeah, that's what heaven was, right? And feeling close to God and all this kind of stuff. It was your vibration.
Yeah.
It wasn't sitting on a cloud. It was literally living it, getting there.
That's grounding it into the physicality. I mean, if we're going to be a little bit critical of what's been going on with social engineering for the past couple of years, like when these suppressive things started over the past couple of years in these various different regimes, and they were like, that's it, no concerts, and you're not allowed to sing because singing is going to send out too many droplets. I'm like, I don't really think that is a thing. I'm skeptical of this. And then when they're like, if you have a tuba or a trumpet or whatever, like you're going to have to wear a mask with a little hole in it so that you're singing, playing into your trumpet, but then it's coming out the other end of the trumpet. Like there was a lot of rational disconnect between the different rules and the different ways that this was, that made my skeptical alarm bells begin to cling and clang.
Yeah, it makes the spidey senses go off. Did you see that picture?
It did.
And this, it was like a school band. And they sell these like pop-up, I think they use them in camping for like toilets and showers. It's just like a thing that's literally the person that you can stand up in. They bought all of them and made every student stand in their own little pop-up bloody bubble thing. Now they're playing music, so what's even the point of that? Can you even hear it? No. So like, but it's such a disconnect. They were literally seeing how far they could get people to follow them, I think. But another,
that's it. Getting into levels of rational disconnect. We're like, this is rational disconnect. This doesn't actually make sense, but there is some pantomime that is going on. So then we get into like, okay, like there is some play, something that is being acted out here that is, asked to participate in, but that it's not, it's not rational. It doesn't make sense.
But if they do that, and even if it looks a bit crazy, then they can get people to follow other things that maybe aren't so crazy, right? It's like I just walked into a shop.
Yes.
Had to buy some jumper leads, and so I went into one shop and walked in, talked to them. Hey, how you going? Where are your jumper leads? And he goes, oh, you're over here. And then he sort of stops and goes, have you got a mask? And I'm like, mate, I don't wear masks. So I walked out, but literally I'd walked in the store. I'd walked around a bit. I'd said hello. He came out and close to me, and then he thinks, "Do you need to wear a mask?" So that's such a disconnect because he has no reason why I should be wearing a mask because I'm literally walking and breathing all over. I've already been in there, so if he thinks I'm a spreader, then it's already too late.
That you got it. If there was already some deadly contagion, you already would have spewed it all over, and then your silly mask would not have done anything after the fact. Yes, we would have to have much different protocols and everything would have to be different. So yes, a lot of this is playing along, and then rational skepticism comes up. But then if there's too much rational skepticism, people are like, stop thinking clearly and asking difficult questions. Be a part of the machine. Don't rage against the machine. Be a part of the machine.
Yeah, I know. I almost said a few things, but I just thought, he's not even going to know what I'm talking about, so.
That's it. So I'm at that point in my trajectory with you. Initially, before some of these experiences became so prevalent many years ago, I was a town crier and I was talking all about them. And then at a certain point, I realized that people have chosen their pathways. They've chosen their time tracks, and they're going down their time tracks. I need to be respectful and loving and unconditionally accepting of what choices people have made. I allow people their choices. I allow them their freedoms. I'm not spending time anymore in trying to like shake you by the shoulders, like that movie Airplane. Like I'm going to shake you by the shoulders and make you like listen to me. No, none of that anymore. And focusing also on the realities I wish to manifest, because I'm big on that. So today is February 2nd, February 22nd of the year 2022, 2022. And it's a big day, even though it isn't every day, but a big day in terms of consciousness manifestation. What am I choosing to focus on? So I'm very big on like, something, let me choose where attention, energy flows, where attention grows, all of these types of aphorisms, the sense of what do I want to place my attention on? So I wrote 3 songs today and did a ton of music, which is a very, a personal expression for me. That's an expression of freedom and positivity. And I did my online course all about solar connection and ascension and being a light body and the journey of light. And I feel like those are really, and had good conversations with people in my life that I love. I feel like all of these are positive things that I wish to manifest, I wish to send energy into. So I would encourage everyone towards that. It's not about living in denial at all. I don't expect you to stick your head in the sand or pretend away like, la, 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 there's nothing going on. No, you can recognize that things are going on, but the sane and rational response to the things that are going on is to say, I'm an empowered, divine miniature co-creator, and I'm going to use my attention to make positive things happen by cultivating those things in my life and speaking them into being. So I would encourage everyone, in whatever are the positive things that you do for your health and your emotional well-being and the positive relationships that you cultivate with people that are on the same wavelength as you, and your creative activities and everything that you do to what I would say is described as build a new earth. Making our cultural paradigm shift. It's how you live your own individual life and how you interrelate with other people and how you create these small communities. And the community is like a bubble that then connects together and creates giant, like soap bubbles, just like when you have a bubble bath or whatever, like you create that clustering together, and then you end up having a completely different level of experience. So I know a lot of people that are forming intentional communities, alternative communities, finding different ways of supporting themselves and living together with others that are also in a more positive mind state. So that's what I'm encouraging everyone to do.
Yeah, that's definitely the trail where I'm going down, and other people I'm sort of with, it's all, and I think that's where we're at. It's funny. This whole thing's been funny as, there's been different levels of, I guess, information or maybe opinion of what we should do. But have you noticed it seems to be the same? Like there's this group of people, random people, and topics just come in and suddenly everyone starts saying the same thing. And these people have no connection and don't know each other, but suddenly everyone's saying the same thing. Just like that. Like over the last few weeks, it's been stop focusing on the story, leave that and just go out and start building what you want. And
I approve.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's part of like the morphogenic field or the 100th monkey, or just cosmic signals coming to us and we collectively pick them up?
Probably a bit of, I think probably the last one more, because this message is coming from, certain types of people. Can I say that? I don't want to, sort of try and say that we're different or anything for anyone else, and we're definitely not better than it. But there's certain people that, and you talk to them, they just say, oh, either I got told to say that, or I don't know, I just started saying it, or I don't know where it came from. And that's, so it's not people who are sitting down like, oh, what should we do next? Oh, writing it down. Oh, yeah, there's the answer. It's completely intuitive. So it's coming from, source, I think.
That's the idea, a self-organizing principle, because I will tell you that I've tuned out a lot from the media and from that level of messaging and receiving. And I do most of my receiving on the inner, cosmic broadcasting system of listening in, like you say, to my intuition, to my guts, to my intestines, and also to my heart, and also to my inner spiritual connection. And those are the things that tell me when it's time to stop focusing on the things that I don't want to have in my life, and instead focus on the things that I do want to have in my life, and connecting with other people that also have a positive presence or are focused on solutions, a solution-based conversation, as opposed to rehashing problems or experiences that they don't want, that they don't like. We can't just always be talking about like pain or trauma or the things that are bad that happened in the past. We have to find a solution or a way to move past them and build something new in order to start a new chapter and get out of that self state.
Yeah, I agree. That's what the lesson is, right? I mean, everything's a lesson, and the lesson is never keep repeating this. Just keep repeating it. Like that's
No,
never the lesson. It's
no,
always how do you get over it? And that
no.
that's we have to figure it out. That's the growth, right? You can't ask anyone. We've all got to figure out how to
Exactly.
get through certain things, and then we're somewhere else, right? That's
Exactly. In terms of breaking karmic cycles on a personal and planetary level, negative time loops, transcending trauma in your life or in your ancestral lineage, and even quantum entanglement, disentangling from the narrative structure of the past. That's like saying, event 1, 2, 3, and 4 brought me to this moment now, but you don't have to keep repeating events 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then have that be the interpretation of 5, 6, 7, and 8. You can say from this moment now, I define what events 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be. Like a dance, 5, 6, 7, 8, go in a more positive direction, like gonna do something different than just the old dance steps of the past. So that is what I try to do in each day. And definitely in a moment like today, if I feel like there's a lot of cosmic energy, I'm like, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, moving in a better, more positive direction of what I want things to happen for me and for the human collective.
Yeah. And just going back to music, that's a great way to change your energy too. If you are feeling a bit down or whatever,
Yes.
you just jump on some nice energetic music and start jumping around, and you will change the
Yes.
state, because we got 3 sort of bodies, but basic kind of bodies, and we can use any of them to change our state, right? The physical, the mental, or the spiritual. So it's if you're mentally and spiritually down, then you use your body, right, and you jump around. I wanted
I am so big.
sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh,
Ask me.
I was just before you mentioned the heart, the stomach, head, listening, and obviously that's our major plexuses. That's our they're basically mini brains, right?
Yes.
Our heart and our stomach. I was just a lot of people, especially now, want to connect, want to listen to intuition or their higher self or guides or anything like that. Have you got any advice on how to differentiate what the voices are? Like, because we have different voices in our heads. We have, I sort of call it, the quiet voice is the one that we should be trying to listen to, but that can be difficult. Is there, you got any advice on that, on how to, differentiate what is?
Absolutely. The first thing I would say, it's important to master the mind in terms of, we come here as little tiny infants, and during early human development, we get language structure, which is not a natural thing for our brain to do, but it's implanted as part of our social conditioning. And then once you get a talking mind in your mind, they don't give you an off button. They give you an ever running inner dialogue. And so it can be really challenging to learn, okay, like, how do I quiet that down? Like, imagine pressing a big red button where you're going to be like, press stop on your mind for a little bit. So that's a big one, of figuring out whatever form of meditation practice you can use to get some quiet inside, and focusing on being able to do that, like go into stillness so that you can even hear stuff. Then there are definitely different qualities of voices or insight. And that's similar to like when you have a dream at night. Sometimes you have a dream that's just like random crapola, for lack of a better word, like fragmentary. I was here, I was there, I was running here, there was a crazy clown, there was, like a purple dinosaur, like things that don't really make sense. But then sometimes you have a dream and it's clear and you can feel that there's a significance there, and it's got a symbolic structure, like this was happening and then this was happening, and then someone showed me something and there was some importance to it, and you get a sense of it being more meaningful than just the random debris of your day and fragmentary consciousness. I would say focusing on inner guidance in meditation is similar to distinguishing those 2 different types of messaging or states. That there's some things in our mind that's just fragmentary, like debris, like brain farts that just happen. And then there's some things that are more deep and more wise and more sentient. And I feel like it's coming from our higher self, coming from our own, you could think of it as yourself in the future. like who you would be or who you inevitably will become as you go through more development and more profound inner changes that lead you to more wisdom. You end up becoming like this guide for yourself, but you might be hundreds or thousands of years older than you are right now. But imagine that that version of you is kind of like turning back around and talking to you like down the time tunnel and saying like, hey, like, here's what you need to know. Here's the most important stuff for you, where you are right now, what you need to know about this life so that you can make good choices and go in a good direction. And so part of it is tuning into that energy signature. It's definitely an energy signature of love. Like I feel sometimes a real heart presence. And like, how do you even know what love is? Because sometimes people don't even know. And to me, it's a heart resonance. Like you feel a little bit of an ache in your chest, but not a pain. And then also sometimes it makes me cry a little and gives me a little bit of a lump in my throat. Like when you think, I don't know if you guys have anybody that you love that's passed on, you know, someone who died physically, they passed on. But sometimes when you think about them, you feel like, oh, like that feeling in your heart, a little bit of a catch in your throat, maybe a little bit of happy tears. I feel this for some people that I knew in life, and then they've crossed over, and I feel like they're wonderful guides and mentors for me. I've got friends in high places, but friends on the other side. And so you tune into that type of a feeling of like, yeah, like that's someone or something, a presence that really cares about me, and that the other stuff that's just like fragmentary, random, or even maybe a little bit malevolent or whatever, it usually doesn't have a heart signature. It usually feels kind of just like dead to me, just not filled with the emotional roundness, presence, realness of real love. So yeah, it's so important to go for, if you're talking to what you feel to be spirit guides or spiritual guidance or some kind of, you know, ascended beings or whatever, make sure they've got a love signature, love or above, and that you're really feeling it. And then you know that that's real wisdom and real nourishment that's coming to you in the moment. And yeah, sometimes it's just the sense that you're not alone, that you're witnessed, that you're listened to. And sometimes it might contain real information like, whatever, don't take that job, or take that job, or don't move to that neighborhood, or move to that neighborhood, or follow your heart. So yeah, I recently moved to a new dwelling place, a new home, and I totally felt like a friend of mine who had crossed over was helping me and guiding me. Like, you want to live in that neighborhood, like you want to move there, like you will have a good life with a good community if you move there. And I'm here, so felt a lot of love from that person. And then also, yeah, I feel like whatever, the connection doesn't end. So being able to tune in that way is very big. And then also, this is big, what you do when you're eating in order to get more mindfulness and meditation in the moment of eating. Like, here's like your sandwich or whatever. I know it can be hard because we all have busy lives, but like, turn off the computer, turn off the TV, don't focus on any of that other stuff. Just focus on the feeling and the sensation of the food coming into you. Because when you do that and you're totally focused on the present moment now, food becomes a type of meditation and a type of profound experience where you become broadcasting your food experience to the sun and the stars, feeding your coherent light body. Like, you have ascended masters all around you that are your light body, and they're made of nothing but pure light, and they run on frequency of nothing but pure love. And when you're in your moment and you're like, oh, like this food is so good, whatever is your favorite thing that you're eating, and you're kind of radiating that outward, you are radiating outward love. You're literally sending out a food of love. And that is what feeds these positive, intangible presences. And that is who you become in the future. Like, spoiler alert, you become a light being. You become a coherent, ascended master, and you no longer eat a physical whatever, like, you know, avocado sandwich, but you remember it, and you tune in on those moments from now when you ate your favorite food of whatever it was, and you receive that resonant nourishment from that moment in time. So when you do that immersive experience of eating food very presently and mindfully, you are feeding the network of sun and stars and light. You are feeding yourself as a coherent light being in the future. You are sending out love to them, and then they reflect it and send out love back to you. Love is literally the interdimensional currency, like, you know, money that is like dollars that are the currency of the world, except it's not cash that is in our banks. It's energy in your energy banks. So by doing that, you get a lot more of this communicative energy between yourself and your higher self, or yourself and loving beings. And it's an amazing, it's a revolutionary act. If you really want to know what's the most revolutionary thing you can do in your day-to-day life to go towards freedom, it's eating your food mindfully and really feeling it and really sensing it and really broadcasting it to the loving presence, and then feeling that love reflected back to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, you know, a lot of people are talking about food, but they're not really talking about it in that way, are they? It's all about, oh,
Yes.
you know, take this or take this will heal you, or this will make you better. But I mean, this is the thing, is we're energy, right? We know this, but we're being taught that we're not, that we're physical. So all this food stuff about little, you know, atoms and round physical things running around and, you know, making things work, well, that's all BS as far as I can work out. It's much, I think it's much more like every food has an energy signature, right? It's like a key, and inside our brains and our bodies are like the locks, right? And they fit in. And that's how it's working. So yeah, that's the thing. If we're a lot more mindful on, you know, actually eating, we probably wouldn't eat half the stuff we eat, right? If we're thinking about where's it, what energy is this giving me, where's it coming from, where's it going to take me, you know, you wouldn't be eating McDonald's, would you? Because you'd be getting pretty bad answers.
Exactly. But I also want you to know, even amongst the good food choices, if you can choose like cashew nuts or avocados or, you know, whatever, grilled chicken or something that's positive, all of these things, like, I'm not judging anyone on their food choices. Like, it's, you know, if you make positive food choices, but it's really the sense of eating it in the right quantities, eating it mindfully, sending it as an expression of what it is to be embodied back to the sun and the stars, because all of this is borrowed light. Like when you borrow a library book and then you have to return it, everything, a nut, a fruit, a piece of animal flesh, is all borrowed light. And all of it, what we do is turn it into a neurological signal that is a flash of light that goes through your body. And you send that signal back up to the sun and the stars. You're like, this is what it's like to be here, eating this, being in a body, which is a miracle, having a face and mouth, teeth, tongue, which is a miracle, and then eating the food, which is another supernatural experience. All of those things go from the mundane to the divine. What goes from like, oh, like I have to like eat some gruel and stay alive and I'm a slave, into no, I'm an exalted being and my body is a miracle and everything that I'm eating is a miracle and my cells are talking to each other and I'm talking to the sun and I'm a light being eating solidified light. We exalt even this simple activity, and it completely changes and reframes everything to do that in the moment. So make that, doing that your practice. Even if you do it for one meal a day or one meal a week, be like, I'm going to sit down and be present with this food and feel what it really feels like to be in the body eating this, and make like a recording of it. Whatever is your favorite food, be like this is what it is to sit down. And you know, you can put like a nice little flower next to you, whatever, like look at something nice, look at something pretty while you eat your food too, because you also eat with your eyes. You eat the situation that you're in, that you're within. Be like, yeah, like I'm sitting here in my kitchen, I'm looking at a nice picture or something pleasant, or I'm with someone pleasant, I'm eating this stuff, I'm having this momentary experience, and it becomes a profound experience. And all of these are ways of valuing what, like, the, you know, we're here in time and it's a magical or supernatural experience. Like, you're here in time, it's a moment. It's an amazing opportunity, as opposed to mostly we are distracted or throwing away our time or having to commodify our time. But all of this, even if it's for 5 minutes, you go back to like, I'm a miracle, and doing this and being here is a miracle. And it completely reframes everything. And the feeling of embodiment and the feeling of being becomes a great gift.
Definitely. It's just, like I say, it's a whole different way of looking at it. I mean, we're so programmed with routine, right? You need 3 meals a day, and people will literally sit there and shove food in their mouth when they're not hungry because, well, it's lunchtime, right? So they're completely disconnected from what the food is giving them. And most of the time, you know, with the food they get, right, people eat it, and what do? They lose energy.
Yeah, yeah. Because you got to make sure your food has light in it. So you're a light being, have to eat food that has light in it. And Cambell is bringing up Pavlovian training, that's what happens when you go to school most of the time. Ding, they ring a bell, it's time for your snack. Ding, they ring a bell, it's time for your lunch. Ding, this is your bathroom break. This is how you train dogs and other domesticated animals. So you're talking about the human as a diminished form into domestication. And what we're trying to do is break free. I want to break free and become a wild, feral human again. And when you're like a wild horse, you run around, you eat when you're hungry, and you go in the field wherever you want to go, and you are not limited by your master that will hit you with, a riding crop and punish you from doing something. That's the journey of what we are on as individuals and as a human culture right now. And our journey is the journey of consciousness and of the stars and the sun and so much that is moving towards ascension and freedom. It's really a freedom of movement through time. When you get to determine what you're doing in each moment, instead of having an external taskmaster that tells you, it's 4:30, time for you to go here and do this. And the external taskmaster can be either a teacher, a professor, a boss, an app on your computer, some external schedule that tells you what to do. Our lives are very different since the invention of the clock. Before the invention of the clock, you went where you felt you needed to go, had a much less scheduled experience. Much more of it was agrarian in the natural cycles of the day and the natural cycles of the seasons. And industrialization and the invention of clocks and the invention of commodification of time, like I'll sell you 1 hour for $10. All of this stuff changed. There's really good work from a teacher who's not on earth anymore named Jose Arguelles. And he wrote a lot of books that are about changing our calendar, going back to a Mayan calendar. He made some very beautiful pronouncements about time. He said, time isn't money, time is art. And I love that because you guys know I'm an artist. You can see my paintings back there. And I'm very much in alignment with that. The sense that each moment should be like this beautifully handcrafted time experiment where you're doing something unique that you've never done before. Like Cambell and I have never had this conversation before. We are sharing ideas. We are connecting our minds and our energy fields. We're sharing it with a larger audience that you're non-locally telepathically connected to us, even if you're catching this in the recording. Like we're quantumly entangled in our minds. So we're making this beautiful collaborative experience together. And it's an innovation. It's like when you do jazz, you're like, now we're going to do something new that we've never done before. It becomes a completely fun, new experiment and adventure, as opposed to, when you're kind of just running on the hamster wheel, going through the motions and doing the same thing that you've ever done, which is what I think that's what it is to really be a zombie or only half alive person. When you're not really present and you're just like, now I do this on this day. Now I do this at this time. Now the bell rings, ding, and it's time for me to eat my food substances and sit down at the lunch counter, and then I'm done, and then I go on to the next thing. So I encourage everyone to break free and be, a complete artist in time and not doing the same routines over and over unconsciously.
I mean, that's a really good way to look at it. Create each moment in time. Because we're told time is precious, right? We know you only get each moment once, but so many of us just let it flitter past, right? Or worse, we sit there and get in bad moods and yell at the world for an hour. It's your fault, and do the backwards thing, But I guess it's
I've done that plenty.
Yeah, we need to just become more conscious of what we're doing, don't we? More conscious in our lifestyle of what we're eating and what we're doing with each packet of time, what we're achieving. And I think the main thing is, you mentioned before, it's we're basically communicating with ourselves in the future. So I think the big thing is, who do we want to be in the future, right? And are we walking that path? What do we need to do to walk that path? And then are we walking it?
Yeah, we are absolutely communicating with ourselves in the future. And when you think of, or when one thinks of what in this time place is described as extraterrestrial or extra dimensional cultures or civilizations, you can very accurately think of them as self-state, who you are now, but who you're going to be also in terms of your evolutionary state. That's not necessarily some other weird, completely disconnected from you level of consciousness in many ways, although you need to pull back a little bit to see the wider viewpoint, but it's you coming from a different direction and living your life in a different parallel reality. And when you look at it like that and you think of it like that, your life is defined as more than just this individuated time, place here in this mundane reality. Becomes a lot more magical. There's a movie called Interstellar that I think explores some of these themes very well in terms of, like Hollywood and the limitations within that narrative structure. An astronaut who blasts off in a clank metal spaceship, goes to a nebula or some kind of a quasar or something like that, goes through a portal in a quasar, and then he ends up bouncing around in time. And it turns out he's the guy that's been sending himself all of these supernatural messages, knocking books off the bookshelf. He's the guy that was waving to himself through his own spaceship portal, through the window. He's like, there's someone out the window there. Who or what is it? It's not an alien presence. It's you moving at a different rate, coming from a different direction in time. So I think that those movies exist. Plant a seed in your mind. Think of things differently. When you think, you're going to meet another culture from another star system, or a supernatural being or an interdimensional being, in a lot of ways, you're kissing yourself in the mirror. You're getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to this space, to this thing. You think it's otherworldly, you think it's someone else, and then you end up I'm kissing myself. This is a reflection of me. I'm kissing myself in the mirror. But they might look different through your cultural lens. They might not look like a human face or an embodiment at this rate. What I mean, they might be vibrating at a different rate, literally a different frequency, so that when you perceive them, you're not able to perceive them as self-state. But then you realize, that Christopher Nolan movie about time is another good one, where the guy's meeting himself forwards and backwards in time, and he has a whole hand-to-hand combat with what turns out to be himself. He's fighting and struggling with himself, but at one point he's himself moving forward in time, but then he's also himself moving backwards in time, and he's doing a time, struggle with himself that's quite violent and quite, choreographed struggle with himself. And that is another good Hollywood shorthand for what is going on in a lot of ways with people that are wondering, who are these UFO visitors? What's happening with technology? Even things like Mandela effect and CERN and the transformation of or distortion of timelines using technology. Who's doing that? Why are they doing it? Who's in a lab pressing these big red buttons? Who's performing these experiments? Why? For what purpose? Why is this happening? And you end up finding out that's aspects of yourself, and that you're meeting yourself, and you're doing a choreographed dance and struggle with yourself. So you've got to stop punching yourself in the face across time and learn how to heal and rectify instead of go into violence and struggle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I do a lot of research into the past, and it tells. I think I've lost what I was going to say, but
that's cool. It'll come back.
It'll come back to me. Yeah, God. What was I saying? I have to edit this bit out. Yes. What were you saying? God.
I was talking about various different Hollywood shorthands for moving self-state, moving forward and backwards through time. We're meeting ourselves through time. We're oftentimes punching myself in the face through time, or I say like you're effing yourself through time, because you send out a boomerang, like you send out something, you think like I'm going to get that guy, but it ends up hitting you in the back of the head, and then you realize I don't really want to be doing this. And that's a lot of what has brought humanity into this state. And then what we really want to be doing is recognizing this and then rectifying. Like if I sent out this thought form emanation and it's out there and it's going somewhere, I need to take responsibility for it and somehow change its trajectory or heal it or stop it if it's a crappy thought form, so that it's not going to come and boomerang and hit me in the back of the head. So a lot of this is about personal responsibility and acting in a different way than going immediately into fear and violence towards self.
Like, so we have this old world civilization that's all, around the realm that we've built on top of, that we're not supposed to know about. And everyone's like, how would a civilization like that fall? What happened? But recently I've sort of been coming to the conclusion that we happened, right? Because when you're in a place where you've got everything and everything's given to you and it's all wonderful and lovely, you don't grow. You're stuck, right?
Right.
So I think that it's probably us that brought that to an end, to teach ourselves a lesson. And also that's what's happening now, right? We're being shown, things aren't getting worse. They're just coming out in the open. We're just seeing them more. They're just in our face more. It's not like things are actually getting worse.
Yeah.
They're more. But at the same time, all this old world, is information's coming out and free energy and, all this kind of stuff and living together in harmony. And I find it interesting that it's coming out now, and that's sort of giving us the directions of how to go forward and build the new earth from the past. So everything's just a big donut, really, isn't it? A big torus.
Circling back. Well, to bring in our conversation, we were talking about sound and sound affecting the body and sound healing. We all lived in ancient Egypt. Everybody who's here now, you all have parallel or past or concurrent lives in ancient Egypt. And in the hieroglyphics, you might see something that looks like, like a staff where they're holding something that has like different, it's a tuning fork. There were lots of tuning forks that were used in that ancient time culture that was all about healing the body, not necessarily like, if you're sick, we're going to do you surgery. Like we're going to cut you open and open things up and mush stuff around inside. And then sew it all back together. That would be seen as like a bit barbaric. No, everything was done through harmonics and frequency, and the pyramid structures, like the pyramids at Giza themselves, being giant harmonic instruments that not only emitted energy, like this is my light bulb over here, right? That we have energy that can light up a light bulb, but also energy that can light up your mind. That what would that be like if instead of being bathed in a frequency that not only is able to illuminate your room with light so you can see in the dark, but that it also illuminates your neurology. Like I'm sure every single one of you has had some experience of like eating or drinking something that just kind of turned up the amped you up, and you were like, even a cup of coffee, it's like I think I can see more clearly, like I can think more clearly, neurologically, or in inspiration, or whatever it is that does it for you, or listening to a song or something like that, getting amped up, being bathed in frequencies that illuminate and exacerbate our intelligence. I feel like that is what was going on in the world that we know as ancient Egypt, and that it was positively influenced by extraterrestrial or extra dimensional cultures, that they were like, oh, like these humans have fallen pretty low. Y'all are going to need some help bootstrapping yourself up, like pulling yourselves up by your shoelaces. Why don't we build this nice pyramid structure that will kind of emanate outward light for you? You can see what you're doing at night, like beyond a campfire, and also illuminate in your mind what is going on. And so you're referencing basically these ancient or concurrent cultures and how they have fallen or gone into disuse, and even things like that. Like if you see vestigial traces that might be stone monuments or other aspects of historical buildings, where you're like, hey, this stuff used to do something more than just be ornamental, right? That it was a broadcaster or a receiver or a transceiver or a collector or a transistor in some way. You're absolutely correct. It was doing all of those things. It was doing it on the level of consciousness, not even just electricity. Not even, it was beyond even just the rude, crude barbarian need, like, ugh, like, I need to see, give me some light. More like the inner light. I need to see, give me some light and let me see more. And that was definitely an influence by positive civilizations that were kind of like, again, humans like you got problems, folks. Like, you're gonna need some help from someone out there to kind of like help you up out of your situation. And then, yeah, sometimes being crashed down. And I don't think it's a bitch slap from the cosmos, like you're bad or naughty. Like the whole stories from the Bible, a lot of them are about guilt and shame, which I think are, in terms of modern psychology and human development, really negative presences that we really don't want to teach that to our children. We don't want to internalize and exemplify that. So the idea of like, you were expelled from the Garden of Eden, and you must feel shame and you must feel guilt and you did something wrong by creating the Tower of Babel and you must be crashed down. Like, there's a lot of examples of that in Judeo-Christianity. And I don't agree with that you need to somehow, like be like smashed down, like you're so bad and you're so wrong. Because like, I've been a nanny and I've been a professional babysitter and I've done a lot of helping children through their developmental processes. And like, children don't thrive when you put them in shame, when you tell like, you're bad, and you're wrong, and you're naughty. You just have to teach them, like, don't flush that down the toilet. Like, that does not go down the toilet. Don't flush that. That will clog things up. You just have to teach them these basic, simple things. And that's a real story from this kid that flushed scissors down the toilet. I'm like, don't do that. That does not go down the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't share them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think we should probably listen to children a bit more too. You know, that's the whole thing. They even, all this programming, even children are sort of programmed that, they're, you know, they're not special, right? They're not the future. They're just sort of this thing, and you just sort of, you can punish them and all this kind of stuff. And with the Bible, I mean, it's literally the one of the first chapters, right? We're born with sin, and so we basically have to spend our lives trying to atone for that, trying to claw our way back up to being worthy beings. I mean, that's a horrendous way to start, you know, any kind of thought form, or, you know, especially an ingrained religion, you know, that is taught from day dot to little people. I mean, that's what we've got to recognize. It's like the songs, right? If it feels good to you, then it's probably a good message. If it doesn't feel good, then disregard it, get rid of it. You don't have to focus on it. You can just go, well, they got that one wrong, but maybe the next line's right, you know?
And I'll say, just like with music, there are some aspects of the Bible that are uplifting, that are about love, and that are about divine presence. Then there's the other stuff that's about shame and guilt that I'm like, wow, I would like to leave that by the wayside. So because even if you don't consider yourself a practicing Judeo-Christian, we do live in a world that is heavily influenced by the Torah, the original Old Testament, and the New Testament, that has all of these stories, like you're talking about, the expulsion from Eden, the idea that you were created as this innocent Adam and Eve characters, and then somehow you did something bad and wrong and naughty. Yeah, you got crashed down into your present state. So that is a mythologicalization or a poetic allegory for what has happened to human consciousness. And it's happened in many fractal time loops. When you talk about history or forgotten history, it's happened, there have been many cultural degradations where you had high culture, you lived an awesome life as humans in embodiment. Then you got smashed down and somebody broke all your sculptures and, you know, smashed them all to pieces. And then humans had to kind of get up from the rubble, bootstrap yourself on up, like, okay, we got a civilizational crash down. Now we got to lift up. And sometimes you had help from the sense of otherworldly or extra dimensional beings, like, let's build some pyramids and help you out and give you some positive consciousness broadcast and some guidance to kind of lift you up out of this. And so, yeah, if you're feeling like, oh man, like we've been through this negative karmic cycle many times, if you're feeling bored or ennui, you know, like that sense of like, oh, roll my eyes, like my shoulders go down. I'm like, I'm melting down. Like, do we have to do this again? Although I'm a galactic walk-in. So for me, it's all new and I'm all like, hooray, like something new. But I get it for people that have been here through many, many, many negative time loop cycles. What I was talking about today in terms of it being a positive portal for you as an individual, you can let go of the quantum entanglement of all of the other times when you lived as a human and were living in a pinnacle of existence and then got smashed down like, oh yeah, well now you're going to be in the dark ages. Now you're going to live around a campfire. Now you're going to barely survive and, you know, deal with all these difficult violences and barbarity. You don't have to go through those loops anymore. That's the big news. Like in really rejoining and recognizing galactic society, like you do a whole lot of inner healing. You heal on a personal level, you heal on an ancestral level, you heal from that sense of this unfair punishment state of, you know, like why a religion would tell you that you're born in sin or born in some state of degradation and that you're unworthy in, you know, your creator's, like, I'm the creator. I'm quote unquote, I'm the creator. I'm like, I don't like you. There's something bad and wrong with you. I created you wrong. I made something bad and wrong. And now I don't like you. And you're like, that's like, there is a lot of distortion or psychopathology there in that. And I think that it needs healing. If you had issues with your parents and if your parents were like, I'm your mom and your dad, but I don't like you and there's something wrong with you. And why didn't you turn out to be a lawyer the way I wanted you to? Like, why are you so weird? Or, you know, whatever happened in your life that made you unacceptable to your parents in this mythological system that I'm talking about. Disappointment to the parental culture. That is how it is presented in the Bible. Like you're like human children that are so disappointing to your cosmic parents, but I'm very different on the level of parenting where I'm like, no, you can't have expectations. Your kid's not going to turn out to be a perfect lawyer or whatever, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever makes your parents happy. Sometimes you're a weirdo, like an artist or a musician. I'm laughing because that's what I am, right? How about you?
Oh, definitely weird. Definitely. Wouldn't want to be any the other way though. I definitely wouldn't want to be normal.
That's right. That's right. You're unique you. And real unconditional love, which is what we should be feeling from our parents and from our creator, is the sense of you are perfect just as you are with all of your uniqueness, with all of your lessons that you need to learn. I wouldn't want you to have to be ironed out or steamrolled, flattened out into some kind of a different shape than what you are. You are your own unique presence. So think about that in terms of humans, with all of the flaws of humanity and weirdnesses and struggle that humans go through, instead of feeling like that's it, like humans are unacceptable in the eyes of God, the creator, and humans must be somehow punished or, you know, made different in order to be accepted. What if it's more like, no, you're on a journey of learning and you're growing and you're moving in different directions. It's compassion. That's compassion towards self. It's compassion towards others. It brings you into the heart state. And that's what I'm talking about. Like when you're talking about connecting with higher guidance or spirit guides or something like that, all of it should be coming from that level of compassion and acceptance and recognition of who you are on your journey as a tiny piece of awareness that needs to learn stuff. So when I was a nanny, instead of going into punishment mode, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Sometimes you have a little lag in our broadcast.
Oh, no, you're good. You keep going.
Okay. Yeah, when that kid was a little naughty and he was going to flush the scissors down the toilet, instead of going into punishment mode, I was like, this is an opportunity to learn and grow. We have to teach this little guy, don't do that. Why do you not do that? Why is that not okay? And if you have something to say or if you need to express yourself, you have to do it in a different style. And then everybody learns and grows. But it takes a huge amount of patience to do that when you're dealing with little kids or with humans who might even be chronological adults who still have violent tendencies or socially aberrant tendencies, or who are naughty, who got a lot of naughty humans running around doing stuff where you're like, don't do that. That's not right. Don't flush those scissors down the toilet. There will be consequences, which basically means the toilet doesn't function for the rest of the family. Then we don't know what to do until the plumber arrives. Yeah. So you need to face the consequences. Humanity, the human family, suffers and struggles. And that's everything. Like, what if the allegory is a giant nuclear bomb? Like, don't drop that nuclear bomb. That's like flushing the toilet down and flushing something down the toilet that doesn't belong there. And you're going to screw up the plumbing for the rest of humanity. And then what are we going to do? There's fallout, there's consequences for the rest of us. And that has to do with war, with social iniquity, the way that we structure the economy, the way that some people might be unevolved in their own approach to sharing resources. They might have a huge amount of resources for themselves, but be unwilling to share it in equity with others. There's so much of that that equates to little kid, don't do that thing that's going to block up the toilet for the rest of us, but they need to be shown and told explicitly why and learn from it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard not to, want to like smack them. Don't smack them. Talk to them, communicate with them lovingly, set appropriate boundaries. And this is how we learn and grow. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I was just thinking when you were talking, compassion is pretty much the opposite to judgment, right? That's what we do. We go around and judge everyone as right or wrong, and you're making my life harder or what, all this kind of stuff.
Yes.
And it's all this projection of you're outside of me, but you're controlling my life. So you need, and that's where we get, all this frustration and parents, disciplining their kids, trying to make them disciples, which like you say, if we have compassion and we're not judging, and we can go, well, they're just learning, what are they trying to say, and look at it from a different angle, then we avoid all that stuff. And I like the chronological adult. I've been trying to figure out a word for that for all these people. And another point is, we look at people, right? And we're like, oh, that body size is 10, so they must be 10. And that body size is 40, so they must be 40. But that's clearly not true, right? There are clearly 10-year-olds out there who are mature and can do their own thing. And there are 40, 50-year-olds out there who are, like you say, right? They're just spoiled little brats in sandpits because no one ever told them not to flush the scissors down the toilet.
You're making beautiful points there. One of which is, when I did a lot of this nanny work, which was kind of in the early 2000s, I recognized, like, some people call them indigo children, crystalline children, all of these really ascended, amazingly wise presences in young people's bodies. As I'm saying this, I'm getting chills of confirmation when I say it. Yeah, a lot of the kids that I worked with, young people that I worked with, were very wise, very spiritually advanced, and in little bodies. And a lot of the challenges that they faced were like just simply not understanding the limitations of the physical world, that they weren't in a magical world, that they had to use, they couldn't just use their imagination and get things like, I can't just wave a magic wand and make it happen. Like, no, it doesn't work that way here. We have to do this, then we have to do this, then we have to put our clothes away, then we have to put our toys away, then we have to tie our shoes, and we have to do these things. And that might seem like a simple lesson, but is not a simple lesson for those that are coming from that self state. And then to contrast, like you say, there are some people who have made it into chronological adulthood for many decades. But what's going on with them is that they've got parts of themselves that have arrested development due to trauma and pain. So here's the real compassion teaching. When you meet someone in chronological adulthood, and they might be 40, 50, 80, however old they are, but they're acting in a very unevolved or unwise, or they're acting like a little kid, you recognize that what really happened was, at some point in their development, they experienced some kind of trauma or pain or abuse that kind of froze a part of them in time. Part of them is still stuck at maybe age 8, never got to move beyond that moment when somebody hit them, or when it might have been sexual abuse, it might have been any of these violations that made them be frozen in time. And that what they need to do is really a lot of inner work on soul retrieval, trauma transcendence, working through processing these emotions, because that type of emotional frozenness get stuck in the body, and it can also then be evidenced as different types of pain or diseases or blockages, like blockages in the liver, blockages in the heart. All these things, they're not random. They happen because of stuck emotions. They happen because the person needs a lot of healing. So although it can be challenging, just like if you're a nanny and the kid is driving you crazy because they're doing naughty stuff, it can be drive you crazy. Let's say if you're working with your boss or a family member who might even be older than you, and they're driving you crazy because what they really need is healing. That a part of them might still be an 8-year-old stuck in time, feeling a shame or pain or something like that, and that it takes a lot for you to see them through your eyes of compassion and recognize that that's what's going on with them, and then to act in a way that fosters healing, fosters the discussion, to say, well, what are you feeling in this self state now? And how can we move past it? And how can we communicate more effectively? And I think that humans, so I'm a walk-in and I've been here for 20 years, right? So I've been having the human experience for 20 years. I have watched humans level up in their emotional communication. And I'm so proud of human culture at moving beyond this reactionary state where it's like, you hurt my feelings, I'll punch you in the face. Mm-hmm. And moving into instead being able to say, what you did caused me pain or distress, and now I'm going to talk to you about it. Not you, but the imaginary person that I'm speaking to, and say, you caused me pain in some way, or something you did harmed me in some way. I got to communicate it to you, and then say, please don't do this in the future. And it's just like whatever. If you lived someplace where you had a neighbor that was like always playing loud rock and roll music, and you can't deal with it, and instead of being like, knocking on the ceiling and like making a lot of noise and being like, shut up there, I hate you, anything like that, you got to actually have a conversation with them about it. Here's a beautiful experience from my own life. My dog, you saw her running around down there in the hallway. I still live in an apartment, but I lived in a different apartment recently. And she was always barking like this when she heard my neighbor come home. And one day my neighbor knocked on my front door after my dog was barking. And I was like, oh no, like this is going to be a terrible conversation. And my neighbor was so beautiful. But I didn't know this though. I was ready for the worst. I was prepared for the worst. I'm bracing myself. And she came to the front door and she was like, look, I hear your dog barking a lot. And I was going into defensiveness. And I was like, oh, but blah, 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 blah. And, like, we're so sorry and everything. And she was like, no, don't apologize. Can I come in and meet your dog? Because I think if your dog smells me and is familiar with me, then she'll be my friend and she will bark at me less when she hears me coming down the hallway. So she came in, she hung out with my dog licked her face, they got to know each other. And as a result, my dog was much more peaceful. And also we all became friends. It was a completely different level of communication than blame, shame, like the God of the Bible being like, I will smite thee and thy barking dog. I will send you into the hellfires and brimstone. No, there was no hellfire and brimstone. There was just beautiful communication. And that ended up being positive for everyone. And then we ended up hugging and having a beautiful relationship. So things can be like that, different than what you think. So sometimes I was the offender. Like I had the loud, barky dog. I thought the worst. I expected things to go badly. Instead, we had communication and everybody grew as a result. That's what we need to do on an individual, cultural, planetary level. And then when you do that, when you master your planet, then you're ready for galactic interactions. Then you're ready for talking to otherworldly beings that fly in metal spaceships or fly on pure wings of consciousness or come through portals or do magical levels of transportation and transmutation. And but just humanity needs to level up into different levels of acceptance and forgiveness and compassion and communication.
Yeah. I was just thinking it's sort of going from what are they doing to why are they doing it? And it's a different way to look at it.
Good.
It's like
good
reacting. It's like, well, what's and a big thing is, people don't, extrapolate thoughts, right? They don't go forward. Like, they never think, if I act this way, what's the result going to be? It's like you say, they just react, right? Rah, 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 rah. But if people thought, really thought about it, well, okay, there's someone at the door, and if they open the door and I start screaming at them, it'll probably end up bad. Then they might not open the door and scream, But it's this whole routine thing where we've really just got to stop, I think, right, and just get that break and slow everything down and shut up the monkey mind and start to look at things differently. Like grow up, right? Grow up. Stop acting like children. um,
Right.
which is,
Right.
I sort of see
The reaction.
as like a 17-year-old or, you know, a 20-year-old, depending on what state you're in, I guess, you know, just about to become an adult and needs to leave mummy and daddy and go out on their own and, you know, become responsible and learn how to look after themselves and learn consequence, right, for actions and things like this. And I think that's pretty much where we are at the moment in a collective kind of way, is that we're sort of growing up.
Definitely going out of adolescence and teenagehood into adulthood as humans, as a culture. A lot of the reactivity or automated responses, a lot of it has to do with emotional programming. So when I heard the neighbor knocking on the door, I went into my emotional programming, which is, oh no, something bad is happening. I'm angry, I'm defensive, I'm ready to defend myself. Like all of these things, it's lowest chakra stuff. And lowest is not bad or worse. It's just going into survival mode. And survival mode is usually like, oh no, like someone's knocking on my door. Are they going to be angry? Or they're going to yell? Or they're going to be violent? Something bad is happening. You know, it's different than coming at something from the level of heart and higher senses. That's really what we all want to be cultivating. Communication from the level of heart, compassion, acceptance, and self-forgiveness, and forgiveness of others, and all of the mental comprehension that's above the level of the heart too. And that, again, if we do that in our interpersonal relationships and planetary structure and social structure, it's kind of a signal to the rest of intelligences elsewhere. They're watching us or looking at us or perceiving us and like, look at humans, look at Earth. Earth is leveling up. Like they're good neighbors. Like we want to talk with them. We want to interact with them. They're not just barky and reactive. They're ready for some kind of a cosmic conversation to be able to go beyond what are the programmed parameters of what would be. Because, you know, there's so many of these stories about extraterrestrial visitors where it's like, we need to kill, mutilate, and destroy. Like there's an invader to our planet. We're going to need to kill it. We're going to need to kill it, or something like that, shoot it, somehow get rid of it, or the sense of being afraid a planetary invader is here. It's a monster. It's a body snatcher. It's an invader, invaders from Mars, all of these things. And it speaks to deep stimulus response programming. And a lot of that is about going into survival mode. How do humans level up, going beyond that survival mode and go into communication mode, where you're like, something or someone is different. I'm not going into fear. I'm going into, let's communicate. Let's see what this is. Let's see if I can comprehend it or communicate with it, instead of saying like, shoot it with a laser beam, incinerate it, destroy it.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, God, just look at war, right? I don't like
That's
what that
war.
country's doing.
Exactly.
Go and blow it up and kill everyone.
That's right.
You know, instead of,
Right.
well, maybe we should just sit down and have a bit of a chat and see if we can sort this out. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. What's the present war that we've got going on? Something with Russia? Couldn't we just sit it down and have a chat?
Yeah, exactly right. It's just this big, which again is immaturity, right? It's like, I've got the biggest truck in the sandpit, so I'm going to run over your sandcastle. Ha ha ha! It's so childish. It's embarrassing.
That is childish, and there's blowback to the entirety, because if you're running over someone else's truck with a nuclear bomb or something that sprays, you know, pollution everywhere, then oh, that's great. Your little conflict in the sandbox just, you know, destroyed the entire ecosystem, and now we're all suffering from it. That's the great concern, that something like that would go on. One guy that has an unevolved emotional state, hitting the big red button, dropping the bomb, and then everything goes kablooey. And it's like, well, your stupid thing made everything go kablooey, and that's not okay. So yeah, we can't just have one person having a tantrum be able to be that powerful in terms of their levels of destruction, that we then all get all of the consequences, repercussions, and blowback because of it.
Indeed. And I think, you know, the veil is lifting. I think that's what we're all starting to see, right? We're starting to see how all these, you know, people who put themselves up as leaders are just really just, you know, they're just angry little kids, right? They're just bullies in the school ground. They're just broken individuals is what they really are, right? They don't know. That's all about, you know, gain wealth and jumping on everyone else and poor little me, you did this, rah, rah, rah. And clearly that's not where the rest of us want to go. And that's why this stuff is just becoming, you can't ignore it anymore, right? It's just, we're being shown basically what we put up with. And I think the message is, don't put up with it anymore. We can do a lot better than this. You know, we've got options. There are adults around who could actually make better decisions than these, you know, bunch of bullies. So it's definitely where we're going. But I think the way to get there is to be conscious. It's like we've been saying, we've got to take responsibility, be conscious for our actions, you know, and that means if we react badly, it doesn't mean we you know, we go back to shame and shame ourselves and, oh my God, it's a mistake. We just learn from it. Well, I did that wrong. Next time I'll do this. And it might even take you 10 times to get it right. But you know, the point of it is to get it right. That's it. Like, if it takes 100 times, you know, at least you're moving along. If we keep reacting, well, you're never going to get it right, are you? So,
Yes.
yeah, time to stop going around in circles, really.
Definitely. I think also when we get to, you make beautiful points there, when we get to levels of self-responsibility in terms of reality creation, on like a quantum level, on a dream state level. If you're like, you know something, when I'm really connected to the divine, I recognize I'm emanating this reality, I'm emanating this world like a dream, as are many people. So it's a collective dream. But it's really important to recognize it's not just one guy that sits in the White House or one guy that sits in the Kremlin who makes these choices, and then everything trickles downhill and becomes the truth of us, the lowly peasants, the lowly feudal slaves. If you claim ownership of your real divine connection and what you are thinking with the magic of your mind or the miracle of your mind, you're making things happen in reality. So it's so important to recognize we as humans are evidencing the collective externalization of our internal state. If you do the internal healing inside of yourself, if you heal your own traumas and pain of your body and of your ancestry and of your culture, then what you begin to emanate in terms of emanate into reality is a different, more peaceful experience. That it begins to be that we are the ones that are actually the empowerment beings, not just one little guy at the top of the pyramid being like, all of you listen to me, like, you know, you serve me. It ends up being, well, wait a minute, like we have all of these voices and we're actually very strong and powerful and divinely connected, and we are creating reality. And with our minds and our self state, like, you know, your passions and your emotions and your divinity inside of you, you create a different level of reality. You dream a different and better dream. And when I start to go into those states, then it goes beyond elected or self-appointed officials who are in many ways unevolved bullies, you know, the least qualified beings to be leaders. And I go into a sense of personal leadership where I'm like, oh yes, like I am a mind creator. I'm using my mind to consciously create reality. I don't want to create nuclear war or chemical warfare. I want to create social equity and restructuring our world in the most miraculous and supernatural way so that everybody is healthy and has enough of what they need. I don't want in whatever zombie apocalypse or, you know, nuclear destruction or any of those things. So I don't go into those fear states. And I really envision and spend my time and my energy envisioning something greater than the fearful outcomes that are explored in a lot of Hollywood movies. Like, you know, I never would watch a movie, but I watched this zombie movie with my friends because it was what they all were all putting on. And I was like, I was so scared. And I was like, somebody escort me outside. Like, I can't walk to my car. Like, I'm too scared. You know, like I can't do it. Zombies are everywhere. But I would never go into that type of movie and think about these things because it gets stuck in my brain. But I like to think about things that are peaceful and cool and awesome and fun and magical and supernatural and miraculous, and what we can do with our imagination so much more than like fearful zombie apocalypse type of movies.
Yeah, very good point. And, you know, what do you want to be, guys? A leader or a follower? You know, we can get the story right, the rhetoric, and we can follow it around and go and pass it and, you know, just basically become a cog in the machine. Or we can be a leader and go, well, I don't want that. So what am I going to do? How do I make something different and go out and do it? You know, again, take responsibility and stop living from this place of, oh my God, I'm a small little slave. I've got no power. There's these big people telling me what to do, and here I am all stuck. Because that's what most people do. But when you walk up to people and if you walk up to someone and say you're a follower, they won't be happy, will they? So everyone wants to be a leader. No one wants to be a follower. So I think that's a good point. Just let's start doing it. And if we don't like things, how do we change it? How do we get a different result? So, wow. I mean, that was really good. Sorry, you go.
Yeah, so beautifully said. I'll even go a little bit further, embroidering on top of what your beautiful insight and sharing, that many people feel disempowered, where they feel like, I'm just a lowly peasant, like I only have enough money for next month's rent, that guy's a billionaire, he's got more than me. And if you go, oh, you need to talk with something, you got something going on, just checking in with you.
Sorry,
if you have
no, we're good. Someone they're here. I just shut the door.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, no. All right, we're good.
If you go even a little bit further into your sharing and what you were saying about people who feel often disempowered and often feel like a peasant, or I'm just a lowly nobody, but nobody likes to be called a follower, and people would like to think of themselves as a leader. If you really look at the root cause of where those feelings of disempowerment come from, almost everybody had some experience in childhood or in their states of early human development where something happened that made a person feel like a victim, or like someone pushed you around or pushed you down on the playground or punched you in the face, or whatever it was violence towards you, or even spoke poorly towards you. And here's the body posture. It made your shoulders go down, kind of sunk into yourself, like I'm nothing, I'm nobody, run away, run away. Someone was mean to me. And I mean, I'm making light of it, but it's a profound experience when it happens. It leaves an imprint in us that even as we might come into adulthood, like, I want you to put your shoulders back. I want you to stick your chest out. I want your heart to be up to the sky. And I want you to do a triumphant, like, put your arms over your head and be in triumph and say, like, I'm an empowered person and I am amazing and I can get stuff done. That's, the body posture of like when you are healed from that. And there's so many different releases that we can do in order to get past that moment of programming of whatever it was. It might have been multiple moments of programming of a teacher or a boss or a parent or someone in authority, a priest, a rabbi, whoever it was, that said, you're bad, you're wrong, you're small, like down, you're nothing, down with you. And you'll never be anything, and internalizing that on a childhood level, and then growing up, and the narrative that is continued is, I am just an ordinary working stiff. I drink my coffee and I drive my car in the morning. I'm barely getting by and paying my taxes on tax day. And that it's those rich fat cats with their yachts and their large companies and their, whatever they are, billionaire people. We can name them all, and they've got all the power. And I really feel that when you do the deep inner healing, you're like, something, what I'm really being is that kid on the playground that got pushed down, or when my parents told me that I couldn't do something, or when someone told me I was not allowed to do it. But if you do the healing, you're like, I am allowed to do that. I am an empowered person. My shoulders go back. My spine goes up straight. I'm like, I am allowed to do this. I have a voice. I'm allowed to say these things. And I become an empowered dreamer in reality, making things happen, not just a lowly slave, not just a lowly peasant. That's the revolution. That's the empowerment. To me, it's totally peaceful. It doesn't have anything to do with like any kind of weapons, guns, or anything like that. It is the empowerment of your heart when you do this healing, when you're like, wait a minute, I'm a miracle. I'm a supernatural being. What I do is, be beyond the rational description, and I make things happen, and I'm a manifester, and I'm great. And I want everybody who's listening and do that, be that, and spread that outward to your community and teach that to your children, teach that greatness to the people around you. That's how it changes. That's how this whole entire cultural paradigm changes.
Indeed. Embody it, right? Become. Same thing, become the change you want to see. We keep repeating ourselves. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's
exactly. And people will see you.
This is the thing.
I don't need to talk over it.
This is why I've never worn a mask. And this is just a little thing that people can do is obviously when you wear it, you're complying, right? And little kids will look up.
Yes.
I mean, think about that. Little kids are going to look up at your face and go, oh, I guess I should wear a mask too. And I don't even know who that person is because I can't see them. You know, when you walk around without a mask, those same little kids will look at you and go, oh, he hasn't got a mask. How come he's not wearing a mask? Why is everyone else? Maybe I have a decision here. Maybe I have a choice. And other people will see that too. You know, because some people just don't think, they just do it. Everyone's doing it. And then if you're out there just, you know, but like you know, Aurora said, just walking around, confidently in your power, but not, you know, you're not there to tell anyone what to do, just doing your thing. And that's how we change. People will see and they'll go, oh, he's got no mask. I hate this mask. And they'll either take it off or next time they go, they're like, oh, I'm going to try going in without a mask. And, you know, this is how we get all these places back to being full of people without masks. We definitely don't do it by complying. So that's a little thing that we can do. And it's, you know, it might seem like a big thing. You know, the first time I went in, you know, everyone's got a mask and you think, oh God, is someone going to come up and talk to me? But no one said anything. And you know, you do it a few times and it's like, I'm meant to be here. Of course I'm supposed to be here without a mask. Why would I have a mask? So just, yeah, do it. Be the change you want to see. So I think that's the main message for today. So thank you so much, Aurora. That was really good. Basically, we were supposed to do this last week, so we had nothing organized. And again, yeah, that was amazing, I think. A lot of awesome information. And of course, Aurora has a website and teaches concepts of physics and the flying rainbow lasagna. So I'll leave all her links below. There it is. All right, let's come out. And of course, that's a stagnant view of a moving toroid, basically, isn't it? Like a double point one.
Right.
Yeah. So
absolutely, you could think of it as a toroid that's turning inside out, like turning inside out on itself by doing this jumping maneuver.
Yeah. Cool. So if you want to learn more about that, jump across. We'll leave all the links below. Go and have a look at Aurora's work. It's definitely leading edge. You know, it might sound a little bit funny, flying rainbow lasagna, but it's definitely based in, you know, it's based in physics. It's based in reality and in change, right? Building something better. So go and check it out. So thank you so much, Aurora. And we might have to, have a chat about the physics of it soon one day. Get into that side of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate it. And yes, we'll have a chat in the future sometime.
I would love that. I would love to return. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for this conversation, all of your sharing and all of your insight and positive energy. And yes, I'm always up for a lasagna-centric conversation.
That's right. Got to be careful of what we eat, right? So eat flying rainbow lasagna.
Yes. Yes, be mindful and eat your lasagna in mindfulness.
Indeed. Awesome. All right. Thank you for your time, Aurora. Have an awesome day and we'll talk to you soon. And everyone out there in the audience, make sure you go check her out. Obviously, give me a like and a subscribe, share this around, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.